You're resting in the chair with your eyes closed, and you may notice your eyes, even wish to open them from time to time. And that's fine, because I really wouldn't want you to not go into a trance too quickly. So much easier simply to allow that feeling in a shoulder, in a hand, to continue as you listen to the sounds of my voice, the sounds in the room, the sounds outside the room, other voices, other rooms, while you pay close attention to the changes in an arm, a hand, and wonder if you are going to be able to go into a trance, while your conscious mind has already begun to drift down, to let go for a time, allowing the body to relax the mind, to relax with it, without knowing at times how much more comfortable you really can become. And sooner or later, everyone's had the experience of falling asleep while watching television, paying close attention to the storyline, just closing the eyes a moment to rest quietly, hearing the music, listening to the voices, in that comfortably relaxed way. When a word or a phrase reminds you of a particular memory, and you drift, dream away for a time, come back to the words again, drift, dream away again, until the words and the music become a soothing sound in the background of the mind, just for a time, and the unconscious mind continues to hear everything of importance to you, while the conscious mind may not notice that you need not listen to everything I say, because you've known all along how much easier it is to learn something when you're relaxed. Though I wouldn't want you to relax too deeply at first. So much more important for you to recognize the small changes, tiny changes, barely noticeable, happening in your breathing, in your pulse, in the relaxation of the face, in a feeling of comfort, security. Because your unconscious will choose to relax your little finger before those feelings begin in a thumb. Or perhaps your wrist will be the handiest place to begin relaxing. But the conscious mind can enjoy being curious about exactly where those feelings will begin. If you drop a pebble into a pool of water, the water flows in ripples on the surface, but just below the surface of awareness, the pebble drifts down. And as that pebble drifts down, past the water animals, drifting down past the water plants, gently floating down, nothing is disturbed as it slowly comes to rest on the bottom of the quiet pool. Even the surface ripples become slower and quieter, and beneath the surface, all is still, calm. And you could recognize your ability to relax and comfortably reflect upon your problems in a certain way, remembering those times when you were sure things were one way, and they turned out to be something else entirely. Perhaps as a child, learning that library is really library, or telling the difference between feet and feet, changing old beliefs, learning new meanings, new ways of doing things. And I wonder if those new feelings, those hypnotic feelings, will stay the same or continue to deepen even more as you try to remember everything I've said to you about those TV dreams and pebbles that drift down, sometimes more quickly, sometimes more slowly. And what about Beethoven, who became increasingly deaf as he got older, but kept on working, writing music that he could not hear, until one day, one evening, he conducted the symphony as they played his newest work, a concerto. And when it was finished, the crowd erupted in applause. They stood and cheered, but he could not hear. He stood there, facing the orchestra, unaware of the audience's approval, until someone walked out and turned him around, so he could see what he could not hear. Only then did he know what everyone needs to know, but sometimes cannot hear. Like the woman I've heard of. Black hair, black eyes, stocky build, a bright professional woman who hated herself and hated her life. She thought she was ugly and awful, and she thought she was shy. So many awful things. Take two. And what about Beethoven, who became increasingly deaf as he got older, but kept on working, writing music that he could not hear, until one day, one evening, he conducted the symphony as they played his newest work, a concerto. And when it was finished, the crowd erupted in applause. They stood and cheered, but he could not hear. He stood there, facing the orchestra, unaware of the audience's approval, until someone walked out and turned him around, so he could see what he could not hear. Only then did he know what everyone needs to know, but sometimes cannot hear. Like the woman I've heard of. Black hair, black eyes, stocky build, a bright professional woman who hated herself and hated her life. She thought she was ugly and awful, and she thought that was why so many awful things had happened to her. But one day, she was having lunch with a friend, an artist she had known for a time. And she said to her friend that there were so many beautiful women, and they all seemed to be on that street that day. And her friend simply said, "I think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," and went on eating as if it were nothing. And that simple observation, that simple statement of opinion, matter of fact, not flattery, wouldn't go away, couldn't be undone. Her friend was an artist who knew what beauty was, so she could not ignore it, and she could not forget it. Instead, she began to look at herself each day in the mirror, and she began to look at others, how they looked, who they were with. And it was very hard and scary at first to realize how wrong she had been, how wrong her mother had been, how wrong she had been about herself in so many different ways. But over time, she began to accept it. She was not ugly. She was not stupid. She was not a bad person. She was attractive and likable and nice, and she did not have to settle for less than she deserved. How she thought changed. How she felt changed. What she did changed. Her life changed. All because of one brief comment, one brief glimpse of herself, a clear admission of something she had been unable to let herself know before, that truth is beauty, and beauty, truth. And the truth about oneself, one's beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. But what we hear is not always measured on a hearing test. Beethoven heard things in his mind that his ears could not hear. And many animals can hear sounds that the human ear cannot. And all we ever need to hear is that there is nothing else we need to do except hear the beauty of what is. And so, before you allow yourself to drift up completely into conscious, wakeful alertness, it may be useful for you to utilize the time now to think about what you've experienced, the thoughts, images, understandings, and how you might use these later on, from one day to the next. Because you have an unconscious mind, and you have a conscious mind, and those two minds can learn from your experiences today some things you can utilize to deal more effectively with those things that have been problems for you before. And so, before you continue to drift up into conscious awareness, normal wakeful awareness, it is your privilege to use this comfortable self-awareness to become more aware of those things you can use later on, those learnings, abilities, and skills you may have overlooked before, to give you a new view of the possibilities for a new way of thinking and feeling and doing things. That's right. Take some time now, a brief time that seems to be a long time, to review and plan, at some level of awareness, those things you will do later on, those things you may change later on, as you begin to use more and more of you. You can use that time now, because in a few moments from now, when you drift up and awaken, it may be interesting for you to know that in that drifting, relaxed state of mind, where thoughts drift by like dreams, that enter awareness for a time, and drift through the mind, while some are left behind to be utilized later on, and others are remembered, or seem to be remembered at first, but then become more and more distant, forgotten over time, and the entire experience can seem so far away, as your unconscious mind protects the conscious mind and leaves those things behind, forgotten but remembered too. And time changes too, so you can know what a trance it's been when you begin to know that what seemed to take a short time turns out to have been a long time, or what seemed a long time was really no time at all. So for now, as the unconscious mind allows the conscious mind to become more aware of sounds in the room, the sound of my voice, the sensations in an arm, a leg, the variety of thoughts and feelings as the conscious mind drifts up, and conscious, wakeful awareness returns quite completely now. Up to the surface of wakeful awareness, restfully refreshed, comfortably awake, even as the mind drifts up completely and the eyes are allowed to open now. That's right, eyes open. And wakeful awareness returns quite completely now.